No problem. Sorry. Which laid out focused priorities for the commissioners in charge to prepare their respective service area for management by the future city administrator. The resolution established 90-day action plans for the 5 service areas. The action plan that most clearly includes Portland Parks and Recreation states, and I'm going to read verbatim, in partnership with Commissioner Maps, the Bureau of Environmental Services, Portland Parks and Recreation, Portland Water Bureau, and the Portland Bureau of Transportation will initiate a process and develop a work plan to be delivered to the city's chief administrative officer by fall 2023. The work plan should include details and timelines for the integration of services related to nature, green infrastructure, watershed management, natural areas, urban tree canopy, and other areas of alignment, including a new organizational and reporting structure that reforms and enhances central service delivery, meets regulatory and financial requirements and best practices, and includes community engagement and consideration. These are all in order to directly support the City of Portland's commitments to address homelessness, community safety, economic recovery, and livability. The city will also launch an internal cross-bureau arts table led by the City Arts Program in partnership with the Arts Liaison to convene the Office of Equity and Human Rights, Procurement, Portland Parks and Recreation, Prosper Portland's Office of Film and Events, the Office of Community Civic Life, and other bureaus to partner with and advise on city arts service delivery. So those are 2 areas that will be working closely with the CAO's office and the commissioner's offices and a lot of other bureaus on particular resolutions. I'll also just note that over the next couple of years, both Todd and I and a couple of other key staff will be called upon to support the transition beyond our regular usual responsibilities. Currently, Todd and I have been involved in executive leadership team meetings with the CAO and the transition team to develop a transition service delivery scope of work that will include programmatic assessments. And also Melody Brooks, who's our policy and analyst, she was here a couple of months ago, is participating in the city code and charter match process. And both Dylan Paul, our property manager, and myself are serving on the mayor's cabinet related to houselessness and finding temporary camping sites, temporary sanctioned campsites. So that was a lot of information, but it's going to be sort of one of the things that we spend a lot more time on in the next couple of years. So I want to get into a rhythm of talking about that. I will say that the area around natural area management, I really don't have much to report on yet. We're still sort of getting our arms around what that means. You all might, you'll recall that we currently have a active IGA with the Bureau of Environmental Services around natural area management and an active MOU regarding tree planting with BES. So we have a jumping off point to continue those conversations. And as we get into it, I'll be sure to keep the board abreast and identify areas for possible engagement and feedback. I'm going to pause and take a deep breath for a moment. See if anyone has any questions.
I do, but you probably don't have answers. I'm curious on, so when you say watershed management, and I'm guessing you don't know, how was that Parks taking on watershed management? Where is that? How does Parks have the expertise to take on watershed management, or would that require staffing? These may be things that, again, fleshed out in the future, but or is it, working in partnership with other agencies? I guess this again probably comes later, but I'm just wanting to know more.
Yeah, Allie, all of that, but I would venture to state that actually we do some form of watershed management. I would say Forest Park's probably one of our largest watersheds in Portland. So we are actually doing that work, but the watershed program is specific to the Bureau of Environmental Services. That's what they call their natural area program. So It's just, we're going to continue the conversation. Right now we have, as I said, we have an MOU with BES around 11 parcels. And if Tanya is available, she could probably speak to what that entails. But it's really continuing the conversation about how to streamline, find efficiencies, reduce redundancies, and possibly change the management structure of those particular areas. So more to come. I actually, Ally, I wish I had more to tell you, but I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, appreciate it. I look forward to hearing more.
I'm not sure if there's anything I can add right now in terms of that MOU and the 11 sites, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question that's probably not particularly germane, but I'm just curious. What's the difference between a memorandum of understanding and an intergovernmental agreement? IGA and MOU?
So normally for the intergovernmental agreement, we're exchanging dollars somehow with services, and sometimes the MOUs are without the exchange of dollars, but
Gotcha.
kind of aligning efforts.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think of them as sort
But
of
they're very similar, yeah.
Thank you.
And to add to that, the MOU expired. We are just sorting out the management of sites by asset, and so that we're no longer under a written agreement. Aside from, well, I guess we do have the IGA around the 11 sites.
Correct. The other area that I just wanted to mention, I'm gonna look to Margaret to maybe fill in the gaps or maybe fill in the entire gap, is around the recent labor strike that we had 2 weeks ago. It lasted 3 days. And maybe you could just give a little bit of insight and where we're at and the resources that we're providing for staff.
Certainly. So Portland City Laborers is the name of the labor agreement. The employees are represented by LIUNA Local 483 is the union. Out of just over 600 employees in the city, 227 of those are Parks and Recreation employees. Throughout our organization, arborists, park technicians, horticulturists. And so they did go out on strike on February 2nd for that 3-day period, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, returning on Sunday. We do have a tentative agreement, and the tentative agreement is then going out to the members for a vote. And assuming members vote yes on what we agreed to, then it will go to council to be ratified end of this month, beginning of next month. So we're really hopeful that that's going to take place. And it was after a long, year of negotiations, not being able to come to an agreement that they went out on strike. So we saw we had a lot of people step up and really help cover the work. So it was really great to see within Parks. We've also been doing some follow-up sessions with employees, just checking in, seeing how they're doing. Strike. I've been around for 20 years and haven't seen a strike. So it was new to everyone, both employees, supervisors, and managers, and how to respond. But employees are getting back to work and getting back into the work environment. So that's it in a little bit of a summary.
Can you talk just really briefly about some of the concessions on either side that contributed to the agreement?
So the agreement actually is all available online. So we could definitely include the link in the notes because I probably prefer to do that since I wasn't actually at the bargaining table. I think it'd probably be best to provide that so you could actually see the details of the agreement.
Thank you. Any other questions for Director Long?
Actually, I had to. Is Vicente okay? It sounded like your notes that he defended an axe attack. So I was wondering, Vicente Harrison, it sounded like that he was out in the field and somebody had an axe that attacked an employee and he stepped in to stop it.
So no one was struck.
Okay, good. Sorry, I want to make sure.
But, yeah. Kind of too frequently we have events like that in our parks where there's verbal or physical assaults. So yeah, we had one recently.
and certain weapons are more easily obtainable.
Good. Glad no one was hurt.
Yes, thank you. And then again, just lastly, just want to encourage everyone to read the monthly report if you haven't had an opportunity to. It's chock full of good stuff. Great, thank you.
Thank you. There are no other questions for Director Long. We'll move to the foundation report. Randy.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time navigating my Zoom for some reason. Oh, there we go. Let's see, we are deep in our O'Brien Square community vision effort, back to square one, which started with a series of conversations. I'm not going to show a deck, but basically to review, this is a collaboration between PPR, Portland Parks Foundation, PSU's Center for Public Interest Design, and the Harvard Loeb Fellowship alumni. And we started last week with a series of conversations, starting off with just kind of an explanation of the issues around O'Brien from PBOT's perspective, PPR's perspective, ours as the foundation and the convener. And then we went into a series of conversations that match up Loeb Fellows who will be visiting Portland to take part in this effort with locals. So we had a first one around youth engagement. O'Brien Square has a long history of youth hanging out there, and we certainly anticipate with the number of services directly adjacent, New Avenues for Youth, and then not only a few blocks away with Pear and Outside In and all those groups, that O'Brien Square will still be a destination for youth hanging out in downtown. And we had a terrific conversation between Roger Cummings from Juxtaposition Arts in Minneapolis that does all youth engagement, a lot of tactical urbanism, activations of park spaces, along with Sean Suib from New Avenues for Youth, and then a young person named Brant Mena, who is affiliated with Pear. And it was just a great conversation about youth culture and how youth can be brought into this conversation. And then last night we had another good conversation with two folks from the Behavioral Health Resource Center, which is now directly adjacent to O'Brien Square, and Central City Concern, who are neighbors, along with Susan Chin, who is from New York and has done some work with the Design Trust for Public Spaces in New York around trauma-informed design. And that was a good conversation. And then on Wednesday next week, we'll move over to kind of the other spectrum, other side of the spectrum of O'Brien, with a conversation about real estate and downtown business. So those are on our website. I'll put the link in to the chat in a minute when I stop talking. The actual charrette, or the community brainstorm effort, will be happening March 8th through the 11th, and it'll be at the old Finnegan's Toy Store, directly adjacent to the south of O'Brien Square. And we'll kick it off with a day-long, sort of open house with people to be able to come in. The Center for Public Interest Design is going to do a number of engagement activities to, help people, kind of sort of realize their ideas in different ways. We will also be having a lot of deeper focus groups on the other side of the square at a metropolitan group, looking into everything from retail and food potential activations to social services, again, to youth. Really going deep with smaller groups in those conversations. And that will all feed into a couple of days of very hard work with the Loeb Fellows and the Center for Public Interest Design and members of Portland's design community to give those ideas visual form that we source from the general public and through our focus groups. And then we'll have a big share out on March 11th. On a Saturday, we'll have open house and a share out where people can, critique the sort of first drafts of the ideas from this intensive brainstorm effort. And from there, we will, further evolve those designs into a report for PPR that will make some recommendations of things that could be immediately done when the demolition fences come down in August or September. That schedule still seems to be kind of moving around. And then also conceptual designs for a future redo of the park. But that redo could be several years in the offing. So we want to, get things started, get activity there. It's going to be, the space has a lot of different constituencies. And so we want to make sure that folks from all those constituencies are served and that the place is safe and welcoming to everybody. So that's my sort of quick summary of O'Brien, and happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Randy. Very excited for the work that the Loeb Fellows are going to do on O'Brien, the work that you're coordinating that. So thank you. Any questions for Randy?
Hope you all can make it.
Thanks. With that, we'll move to the working group reports, and a small change here that I forgot to note earlier. Mike Elliott is out of town, so Ilana Perlgitty is going to fill in for him. But first we have the Board Affairs Working Group. Casey. Oh,
It's Q&A.
Q&A. Sorry,
I'm not
I always
reading
do
it.
that.
Q&A except for financial system.
Right. Which Ilana will provide. Any questions for the Board Affairs Working Group to Casey? If not, we'll move to land use and infrastructure. Actually, did that go out to the group? Did a report go out to the group? David, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I tried to send it out. Was it yesterday maybe, or?
Yeah, I think it
But
didn't
so
make it
that's
out.
where, yeah, it would be interesting to have a convo with the group about that, because our working group is basically the week right before this meeting.
Yep.
So to turn it around and have everybody review it and kind of get it in on time, the package usually goes out to the board,
A week in advance.
like 24 hours after we have our meeting. So should I bump everything out to be next month? Because it's just kind of tough to get that timeline to work
Yeah, we can look
properly
at,
anymore.
yeah, we can look into moving the land use and infrastructure meeting a week earlier so that you have a little bit more lead time. In the meantime, Corbin, it looks like you have a question, but I was going to say, are you prepared to give a brief verbal report since we didn't have the benefit of a written report?
Yeah, I could open it up.
Regarding
Yeah, I thought
the
I
community
sent-
engagement working group, is that what you're talking about, Bonnie?
No, sorry. We were talking about the land use and infrastructure working group report. Thank you.
I love the new format, by the way. Whoever put that together, thank you.
Thank Michelle.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. We had 3 items on the agenda. One was the supplemental environmental review of the Rose Quarter I-5 project. And we are trying to get a hold of Jim Owens and Patty Tillett for a little bit more historical perspective on our involvement with that. So that's will be reviewed at our next meeting. The second item was a report from Brett about the Zidell proposal on the South Waterfront, and that there's been some changes to that proposal from their previous proposal. Zidell the family just kind of wants to parcel it out and sell it out to developers, parcel by parcel, versus it being a comprehensive master plan. And the previous plan had a number of open spaces dedicated to the plan, and currently the parcelization plan that they presented at their early assistance review with the city did not have any open space dedicated to that. So the city and the parks are looking at opportunities down there for open space. And so that's something that we'll be tracking in further meetings. And then the last item on the agenda was about the site selection process for the North Portland Aquatic Center. And the current design team is looking at 5 sites right now, and that we might be asked in the near future to help make a recommendation or give our opinion on the site selection once that process is through. So I think that's another item that we'll be bringing back to you in a month, I would imagine. So I apologize for the not getting the minutes out in time. Any thoughts or questions on those 3 items?
Thanks, David. Corbin?
Yep.
My particular concern has to do with the site selection and what is being done to make sure that we are not gentrifying community members out of that area by announcing that particular site. I would love to hear if you can ask them, if they can bring it forward, just what measures are being taken before we select the site. I mean,
Is
I
anyone
remember
from
from our
Parks?
meeting.
Go ahead.
Just, to reiterate what happened at the last meeting regarding the pool is that it was said that it was going to be a gentrifying event. And I would love to hear what measures are being taken place to reduce, if not prevent altogether, gentrification in the sense of displacement.
Thank you,
I don't
Corbin.
know if
Yeah.
anyone, yeah.
Unfortunately, neither Brett nor Lauren are with us today. I don't know if Todd or Adina, you feel like you can comment on the gentrifying aspect of that kind of redevelopment?
So we just had a presentation on this today, so I'm going to try my best. My understanding is that the group did confer with Prosper Portland, Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, and another group that is heading up the displacement project here in Portland. And they actually weighed in on the options based on that and made a recommendation. So we can expand on that at another time. I just don't have subject matter experts on the meeting right now to give more information, but I do know that that was one of the focus groups that we engaged with to ensure that we weren't impacting, to ensure that we're looking at that as a part of the process.
Thank you. I didn't expect for you to report in, but definitely when it does come before the board, if we can have that background information before we make our decision would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Casey, you had your tent up momentarily and then
It was kind of a broad, it's probably a fairly stupid question. But it's kind of, David, it's kind of a big, wide question. I see that North Park Blocks, OMSI and Zidell may all be coming online at about the same time. Is that true, or are they going to be staggered? Do you know enough in terms of where everybody is?
In terms of them getting through the land use review process?
Just in terms
Because
of,
I don't think
in terms of development, are they all going to be done like in 2025, 2026? So they're 3 huge projects. They're going to hit the city. I'm just kind of curious how they're going to hit the city.
I'll let the city answer that one, but from my private perspective, I'm not sure that there's any plans to have any of them done anytime soon.
Okay, not in my lifetime. Yeah, good, just curious.
Yeah, great question.
any other questions for land use infrastructure? And apologies, it appears we have 2 different versions of the agenda. One that includes community engagement working group and then the nominating committee. So I understand the community engagement working group did not have a meeting, so did not submit a report. Is that correct, Erin?
That's correct. We did not have a meeting last month.
Okay, thank you. So then we just have the financial sustainability work group which I will ask Alana to field questions on, and then the nominating committee, which is also Ilana.
And on financial sustainability, we actually have not had a meeting since the last board meeting. We reported out at the last board meeting about the budget advisory committee process, which had subsumed our committee meetings, and our next committee meeting is next week.
Great. Thank you, Ilana. And with that, we'll move into just a brief report of the nominating committee, which is being formed, and it will be chaired by Ilana.
Yeah, thanks, Bonnie. I'll jump back in. And I want to start by just thanking Erin, who has been the chair of the nominating committee for the last couple of years and who has handed me all sorts of materials and kind of timelines for this, which is fantastic. So thank you to Erin. We are about 2 weeks behind schedule, which I think happened last year too. So I'm going to say that this is a perennial issue and not a big deal. The nominating committee is going to be filling 2 slots this year. We have a number of reappointments of board members who have expressed an interest in continuing their service, but we will have 2 openings. I think Bonnie is going to be talking later in the meeting about a 3rd opening that we will be filling before that process starts. And in the past, we have done the bulk of the work of the nominating committee in April and May. We have a timeline that will continue that this time around. We put together a committee of members of the board, seek applications both through our networks and also through the Bureau's network, and some outreach there. Last year, I think we tried to really expand that outreach, which was fantastic. Make sure we're working with some of our community partners and others to get a more robust pool of applicants from different backgrounds and more parts of the city. We'll then in late April look at, or mid-April, I guess, look at doing interviews with the top candidates to fill those 2 spots. I suspect that our biggest struggle this year will be having too many qualified candidates for only 2 spots. I know that that's been a struggle and a blessing the last couple of rounds. And at this point, I would say for the board, 3 things. First of all, just know that there will be recommendations coming forward in the spring for 2 new members. And if you have people within your own networks who you think would make good board members, please start talking to them about service on the board, and we'll have application materials out soon that you can pass along to them. And then if you're interested in being a part of the committee, let me know over the next week. If I don't hear from people, I'll reach out to a couple of people also. It would be great to get 1 or 2 of our newer members involved in this. And I know we have a couple of people who want to continue serving who have served in the past as well. So we'll be putting together that committee over the next couple of weeks, and then moving forward into the process. That's what I've got.
Thank you, Alana. Any questions for Alana on that? I will sort of underscore that the infrastructure that we have for the nominating committee is pretty good. One of the things that we do have that has come up in the past is we do have a matrix of the kinds of skills that we want to ensure are represented on the board. And one thing I'm going to talk about in a minute when we talk about the midterm appointment coming up is that we did lose a board member who is really strong in organized sports. Luckily, we do still have that with Adam Lewis, but that is an area that we want to make sure that is strongly represented. And Commissioner Ryan also is concerned that he wants to make sure that that is a well-represented voice on the board. So as you think about your networks, kind of lean into that aspect a little bit. There will be ample opportunity to get the announcement out to your networks, and hopefully we'll get some good candidates. Any questions for Alana on nominating committee? If you're interested in serving, it's a lot of fun. We meet a lot of cool people, not all of whom we can invite to join the board, which we wish we could. Thank you, Alana. With that, we are going to move to the midterm appointment of Suen Ho. And Suen, I'm so delighted you joined us today. I don't know, I'm happy to give a brief introduction. I've had the pleasure of working with Suen periodically over the course of the last, I don't know, several years or so. We're working on a project currently together. She is an urban designer and architect who designs things for the public realm, including, I'm gonna mess this up, so I gotta look, the Astoria Bicentennial Legacy Project in Astoria, which was about a dozen years ago or more. But she is excited to join our board. Do you wanna say a few words, Suen, since you are here? Not to put you on the spot. Maybe she
I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm actually doing my evening walk, so there will be background noise. Sorry. This is really cool to be able to pipe in. For this meeting, I was just going to just be a fly on the wall, and I thought no one is going to notice it. I guess it's a public forum, and there's no secret. I look forward to meeting all of you in person, and yeah, I don't know what else am I supposed to say. Otherwise, I just want to clarify, I'm an urban designer. I'm not an architect, but I do a lot of architectural work and I teach architecture. So that's as close as I am able to kind of pull myself together with the word architecture. And thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. So we went back to the nominating committee chairs, Erin and Ilana again, to verify that this is what we wanted to do. We had the foresight when we did this nominating committee process last spring to think about if there might be a midterm vacancy, what we would do. And we're so grateful that Suen agreed to both be in that sort of ready to serve position. And then when the position became open, she was willing to accept. Corbin.
Before we move this over or move forward with this, I guess my question, I put it into the chat box, is was there a resume or CV or some sort of information packet given to the board? And was that located in the packet? I just somehow missed it.
I thought that it was in the packet.
I don't know if it was actually in the packet.
It was not in the packet? Or was it sent out prior? Because I remember seeing it, but maybe
Was it used internal, like it was just a smaller group?
Okay. It's fairly brief, her bio. Can we pull it up and read it? Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
Susan from the original selection process. So my issue is not with her. I think she's wonderful and I would be glad to have her on the board. It's more of a procedural question to make sure that we do get this information before we make decisions.
Absolutely. I think that's correct. And like I said, it's fairly brief. I'm happy to read it. If I could get it up. Bear with me, I didn't have it pulled up.
Bonnie, are you talking about the bio that we had for council?
Yeah.
Okay, I have it up if you want me to read it.
Yeah, thank you. Michelle's gonna read it because she did submit it to council, but I guess didn't submit it to the board. So my apologies for not noticing that.
Suen Ho is an urban designer who has taught architecture and design extensively in Oregon and has served on a diverse number of local nonprofit boards and committees. She has lived and worked in Boston, Pittsburgh, New York City, France, and Hong Kong, and has been enjoying the Portland Park system since 1993. Her built works are mostly publicly funded projects that focus on seldom recognized cultural history and stories. In 2006, she was commissioned to design Astoria's Bicentennial Legacy Project, the Garden of Surging Waves in Heritage Square, fronting City Hall in the center of the historic downtown, and received several design awards as a result. Sue-Ann is interested in serving Portland Parks and Recreation because she believes that public parks can bring much needed outdoor joy and relevancy to everyone. And then I can also read her impact statement or statement of interest, sorry, which is something that we include in council. Just say more about her, sorry.
While Michelle's pulling that up, I just wanted to note that presuming she's approved here, go ahead.
Her statement of interest says, I am truly honored to be given this opportunity to serve on the Portland Parks Board. I believe that all people can elevate their sense of belonging when public assets are relatable and relevant to the users. I hope through this new civic duty role, I can help amplify the voices of underrepresented and marginalized community members and help PPNR realize truly accessible and welcoming parks that instill a sense of pride from those who are undeserved.
I'd like to apologize for us not sending the information in advance. I think this is the first time we've done a mid-term appointment. So I think it threw us off our game. So apologies for that. And thank you, Michelle, for swooping in and letting us hear a little bit more about Sue-Ann.
Any other questions, comments? And thank you, Corbin, for calling this out on procedure. Okay, before I call a vote, I think the only thing I do want to mention is I think, Michelle, that the date that's listed here in the agenda, that it's going to the consent agenda, and I think it's going the following week, right? It's listed for February 22nd, but I think it's the following week.
Yeah, March 1st.
Yeah, so it's the following week on the consent agenda, rather than the date that's shown in the on the agenda. If there's no further discussion, I will entertain a motion from the floor that we recommend appointment of Sue-Ann Ho to the Parks Board. Corbin.
Yeah, moving it forward. I think she'll be a wonderful addition. So
Thank you. Any second?
Second.
Adam and Casey.
I'll let Adam.
Tied. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Welcome, Sue-Ann. Okay, with that, we're going to move to the Healthy Parks, Healthy Portland review of the draft mission, vision, values, and racial equity statement.
Thank you. So I'm going to be presenting and Nicola is going to be running the show. So I'm going to thank her in advance for keeping me on track. There we go.
Can you see that?
Yes, it's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody.
So as part of the Healthy Parks, Healthy Portland Planning Initiative, Portland Parks and Recreation has been working with the community since 2021 to renew our foundational statements. We've undertaken 2 waves of listening and learning with internal and external audiences, including the Parks Board, and have engaged a co-design team made up of staff and community members to create draft statements. I'd like to thank Erin Zolenkoff for serving on the co-design team that worked hard to create the recommended statements that were accepted by division managers and myself on January 25th. I'm very excited to present a quick reminder of our process and share Portland Parks and Recreation's new mission, vision, values, and equity and anti-racism commitment for your endorsement. The goal was to renew Portland Parks and Recreation's mission, vision, values, and racial equity statement. During the process, the racial equity statement became an equity and anti-racism commitment. The Bureau's listening and learning engaged internal audiences and community focusing on centered communities, Black people, Indigenous people, people of color, immigrants and refugees, people with disabilities, LGBTQIA+ people, youth, older adults, and people living with low income. When the co-design team convened, it decided it wanted our foundational statements to be concise, yet specific, aspirational, yet attainable, memorable, easy to understand by many audiences, and something that we can be measured against and held accountable for. It took us almost 2 years to get there. Here's a quick reminder of our timeline. In the spring and summer of 2021, we embarked upon Wave 1 listening and learning, hear what people value about the Parks and Recreation system and what they thought about our existing foundational statements. We came to you to talk about our process and values in May, then again at your June retreat to take a look at our existing statements. We worked with culturally specific and community-based organizations to hold listening sessions, including our East Portland advisors, Home Forward, immigrant and refugee leaders, and included the Urban Forestry Commission, Portland Accessibility Advisory Committee, Parks Board, and staff. In December of 2021, we convened the MVVR co-design team to hear what we learned during community listening, decide on a framework for foundational statements, and draft new statements to be considered by community. Over a series of 7 meetings, drafts were created. From May through September of 2022, we conducted Wave 2 listening and learning to get feedback on statement drafts. We came to the Parks Board on June 4th to get your feedback. For Wave 2, we increased the number of voices that reflect our centered communities, holding community feedback sessions in Dawson Park, Lewitt View Park, Mount Scott Park, and we conducted listening workshops with the Community Language Liaison Services Engagement Team, Slavic Community Engagement, and through an open virtual workshop. We also talked with you, Urban Forestry Commission, and the Parks Advisory, Accessibility Advisory Committee, and Portland Parks and Recreation staff. In addition, the Community Engagement Team did tabling events at 7 community events, including Good in the Hood, East Portland Arts Festival, Pride, and many more. In December of 2022, we came to Parks Board to share our process and the results of our Wave 2 listening and learning report. The co-design team also reconvened to hear what community said about the draft statements. The team met over a series of 3 meetings and finalized statements that they recommended to me and to the division managers. On January 25th, division managers and I accepted the recommended statements with 2 small changes. We sent the statements to be reviewed for language comprehension in Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Russian. Final statements will be fully translated into those 4 languages, but we wanted to learn if there were any problematic words or concepts at this point in our process. We are bringing the statements to you today for endorsement. We will also share them with Commissioner Ryan. We expect to make them public sometime in April as part of our Healthy Parks, Healthy Portland report. Okay, let's take a look at our statements. These documents were sent ahead of time. I mentioned this, but I want to reiterate that this is a draft layout and visualization of our statements. We like it, but it will likely be refined a bit as we move through the communications process. I do think it's helpful to see our statements and how they relate to each other. So we're going to pull them each statement up so that we can read them. Nicola's going to put it as a PDF so that it's a little bit larger print for folks. So, as a reminder, the mission is our ultimate goal or purpose. The vision is what we aim to achieve long-term and includes a statement and outcomes together. You probably remember that the outcome categories really resonated with community, and we're using them to organize our strategic actions and results framework. In this way, we'll be able to tie what we do and how well we do it to the outcomes we want to see in the community. Let's look at our values. These are meant to show what values underlie our work. I'm going to keep going and review our equity and racism commitment next. Then we can open it up for discussion. I'm going to pause for a moment and give Erin a chance to add anything about our statements or process.
Thank you, Director Long. I just want to reiterate what Director Long said about the process. I was on the team, and it really was collaborative work. It was listening, going out into community, listening, redesigning, going back. It was a long process. It was a lot of work, but I was just in the end really impressed, especially by the end of the process. You just realized like how much went into it, and also just the level of collaboration. And it was not top down at all. It was very much listening to the voices, listening to what's being communicated at each different stage, and then incorporating that feedback, especially looking at those centered communities that were brought up earlier. And so I just wanted to add that perspective from being on the team.
Thanks, Erin. I know that, so we can toggle in between the mission, vision, values and the equity and anti-racism commitment if anybody needs to spend more time on it. But I did want to open it up for any questions or comments. And if somebody could let me know if anyone's raising hands.
Looks like Sabrina has her hand up.
Hey,
Yeah,
Sabrina,
thank you.
welcome back.
Hi, thanks. I know I was out on maternity leave towards the end of last year, so I might have missed the update on the community engagement, but I'm just curious, the events that you mentioned, it sounds like a pretty robust amount of events that you all went to. Did you all feel that community members were really interested in kind of giving this feedback on this, or were folks maybe not as interested in helping with the mission, or how was that engagement?
Well, we don't have our community engagement folks with us, but I will say this. I know that our team was really, really flexible and adaptive as they approached different audiences at different venues to get input. So it wasn't cookie cutter, right? Like we weren't asking the same people the same questions at every event because it just wasn't always appropriate. So I know that they really put a lot of thought into it, and the events that I mentioned were like just a snapshot. There were so many more events that they went to, bigger and smaller. But yeah, I don't know, Todd might have something to add.
I'll just share kind of what I heard from the team, and then my experience of going to some of the events is generally people like the fact that their city government is going out into community spaces, whether it's at parks or events, and asking for their input both on what our goals are and what they're really interested in what we're doing. So we call it the action and results part of our Healthy Parks, Healthy Portland. But they did weigh in, right, on our mission, vision, values. I think this coming summer, there's even going to be more excitement in the community about like, what are you actually doing to make these things real in our lives? And so a lot of times what I saw is people using their real life example, whether it was access to a park or access to swimming or some program they loved, and how that, you know, reflected in the mission, vision, value statements. And so generally, I saw a lot of positive feedback about the approach, and that it's the action results that people really want to dig into.
Awesome, thank you.
I'm going to ask Nicola to toggle back to the equity and anti-racism commitment. I know, again, everyone received this in advance, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to engage with me and the staff around what we're looking to move forward.
And can you remind me, so this is these things will feed directly into the actions and results, right?
Yeah, think about it almost as like the platform or the frame, right? For then the action results is what we do and how we do it. And the mission, vision, values is more of the why we're doing it.
Nicola, I don't know if you meant to unshare your screen or not, but you did. It's fine if you did.
Yeah, I did because I accidentally closed out the mission statement and I needed to find it again, and I didn't want you guys to have to look at all my file folders. But
Okay.
Just to address Sabrina's question further, Sabrina, these kind of outcome categories here provide kind of the anchor for actions and results framework, which you might remember from our discussions at the co-design team in the winter, spring last year.
I see Chris has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment and say that the outcomes that they're listed and the anti-racism statement and the values and steps are really clear, especially in policy making, the values and how to create policy. I think these will be really useful while we're working in the Title 20 committee and working through those policy changes and language and looking to these documents to move that work forward. So just wanted to applaud the content and the community engagement and working on these documents.
Thank you, Chris. Casey, sorry.
No, it's all right.
I'm like fixated on this.
No, I'm very quiet about it. Just a couple of questions. You might have answered this first one before. So if we endorse this, I think what you're looking for today is that we endorse this to keep moving forward. Where does it go from there?
No, that's a good question. Our next step is to bring it to Commissioner Ryan. He needs a full briefing on everything we've done thus far. And then from there,
And like the wordsmithing part of it, we're expecting some feedback from the translation. So are there certain English terms or phrases that we landed on that we're having a hard time getting through the translation? So I think there'll be some iterations around that. And then what we're really excited for is in April, having a public document will really be our first Health and Parks held in Portland. You can think of it of a hybrid between a strategy document and an annual report that we'll start doing on a regular basis, probably every year at the beginning here as we build momentum. And so that's kind of will be the first coming out party for all of this language of where it will hopefully be an accessible, publicly accessible, and for our staff too, to see how the mission, vision, values, racial equity statement, the action results, the listening and learning, kind of putting it all together with some like community stories, really, hopefully from a community member's perspective. Like we all geek out on this, like on the technical strategy side, but we want it to be a document that people pick up and actually want to read. And then we can we've been talking about having kind of more of an internal technical document that we'll have for all of you and us in the summer that can be kind of more of the internal workings of the strategy work. But by April, we really hope to have this kind of out in the public.
And then my other question was, does any other department or bureau have anything like this? Or is this really unique?
Yeah, so it's uneven. The city doesn't have guidance on what bureaus should do around strategies. They have guidance for annual budget processes and then 5-year budgets, like what you see from the back, the budget advisory committees. And then a lot of bigger bureaus have those kind of 5 or 10-year plans that you would traditionally see. And the trend, I think, VES has done it a little bit. Water Bureau has done it, and I think we've embraced it even more of an iterative planning process with multiple kind of horizons that we're working towards around being held accountable. And I think that's kind of the trend, but I think we're unique in that we're so public facing and we're seen as really embedded in the community as much as city agencies are in the city of Portland. And so, yeah, that's a little different.
Yeah, I would say the level of engagement and the approach is very, very different. I think that a lot of the strategic planning and foundational documents that many of the other bureaus have. There's a lot more internal work around it than external. So I saw Corbin's hand momentarily, but now I don't.
It is still up.
Okay.
I have a quick question regarding the mission, vision, values visualization document and the Portland Parks and Recreation Equity and Anti-Racism Commitment. Are those working in tandem? Is one before the other? How am I I'm trying to figure out what is the difference between these two documents, or how are they in conversation with each other?
I'll give this a whirl. So the document that you're looking at currently is sort of the main document, right? We, as a bureau, actually had an equity statement for many, many years. And so we had actually started work on updating that before we started the Healthy Parks, Healthy Portland work, and sort of put that on hold to let the other process catch up. And we felt that it needed a standalone commitment, which is also why it went from a statement to a commitment. So it's they are in tandem. They're not necessarily separate, but we just felt that it was really important to call out our work around being anti-racist organization and embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion, both in our workplace as well as centering communities. So I hope that's helpful. And Todd's saying I did okay with the answer.
Yeah, I want to, if I might also, the equity anti-racism commitment further expands upon the value of equity and anti-racism, and the internal and external teams thought that was important to be more clear about what we meant by having a value of equity and anti-racism.
Thank you. I feel like these documents need to somehow be one and the same, or I'm wondering if community members will see one and not the other and question that. But what I really like about the anti-racism commitment document is that it says we will, and really the language that I really particularly like is develop accessible, equitable, and inclusive policies, programs, and services. I would love to see that somewhere in the mission values visualization. And if I was to add something to policies, programs, and services, I would also say infrastructure to connect to places. And if there's a commitment to move towards inclusivity and moving beyond compliance, especially with ADA inclusion.
Thank you for that feedback, Dr. Corbin.
Looks like Sabrina's hand is up.
Thank you. Sabrina.
Yeah, I checked our agenda to make sure I wasn't talking too long, but it looks like we're good. So I'm gonna make another comment. So kind of building on what Dr. Corbin said, I like the we will section 2, and just let me know if this is something that I should talk about offline. I might not be up to date with the actions and results considering I was out for a couple months. But how do we ensure as a bureau that we will do those things? Is that going to be directly connected to the actions and results? And again, if I just am missing information because I didn't get updates while I was out, I'm happy to meet someone offline, but those kind of seem like one and the same.
Yep. So in the action results, we both define what we do. So a lot of those we will statements, you'll see in our actions, those are things that we're doing. And then also how we're accountable and how we measure and disaggregate the results from what we do is a real big important part of the action results. And I think it's also part of the equity and anti-racism statement there as well. And so making sure that when we do collect data, we have a plan up front of how we're going to do disaggregation so we can see of the disparate results, if there are some, in our actions.
Okay, so that section that says we'll see that reflected within the actions and results work.
Totally. So you can, it's not numbered, but for instance, I'm just going to pick on number 4, the 4th bullet there, expand the diversity of our workforce. There are many actions that we're taking to do that. In many ways, we're trying to measure our progress in that, whether it's diverse hiring pools, who we hire, our retention rates, and the turnover rates of our staff. So lots of different ways we're trying to, just for instance, in that bullet, and each one we could map it to different actions and different measurements we're doing.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you for the question, Sabrina. Corbin?
So is it possible, I understand that this is at a, almost finalizing it, but I almost, we will statements, I can see how they map on. Is it a possible way of having this in one document, or is it too much? And you really want to keep this separate? Because I see accessible, safe, clean, well-maintained public spaces. And then underneath, we will develop accessible, equitable, and inclusive policies, programs. I would also say infrastructure and services, just to connect the two. And so I'm just want to make sure that we're getting everything in this document, and it's not going to be perceived as some of this floating in different places.
No, I appreciate that. I think that the idea is that it will be 2 different documents. However, these are going to be presented, like when we have the visualization and the report, they're going to be presented in such a way that really shows the seamlessness and the alignment between the documents and our work. And it's something we're working on right now, and it's kind of the fun part for me. It's like, how do you present this in a graphic way with narrative and stories and data to show to sort of show the whole story. So really appreciate your feedback on this, and we'll take that back as we continue to talk about how we're presenting this information to the public, because I understand you don't want these to be seen as separate actions or separate sort of philosophies, because they're absolutely entwined. And in fact, the anti-racism and equity commitment is so important that we needed to say more about it, right? And there's also something to be said about keeping things on one page. So, but thanks again, Corbin, especially for that inclusion of infrastructure, which again is one of those words we really grappled with, frankly. Just doesn't exist in some languages, believe it or not. So, but we'll continue to communicate back with the board on our progress and the report. And when it's time to sort of have the coming out party, as Todd has referred to it.
I mean, I love your comments, because it's even make me think the graphic options, like having a open spread where maybe all these words can be seen together, versus right now we're toggling back and forth. And so I think those are different things we can think about as we do the layout for the document.
Yeah, I think, just having one document that people can look at could be helpful, but I also have to say that this is really pretty. The only thing that I would say, you can put some green in there, but I think
it will be. Don't you worry about it.
Some color would be great, but I like the cleanliness and how it's laid out.
Yeah, no, the way it's presented now is just for that, like that simplicity for y'all to get a sense. And in fact, even the little even the little graphics are placeholders. Those will be those won't be stick figures in the final.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Aaron, I think we're done with our, oh, wait, I lied. Adam has his tent up, sorry.
Adam's even quieter than turning it over. Mine is about sort of future timelines. And again, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but with so much of this strategy, vision, mission, sort of aspirational goals, it's so iterative. And so I'm curious if you could talk about like timeline for when this is going to be reviewed, and then also, if you do know the answer to this, how this relates with sort of where we started today's meeting with charter reform. Is this strategy going to be resilient through charter reform, and if so, why or why not?
Yeah, please do.
So I don't have the graphic, but generally the city of Portland's on an annual, both budgeting, performance monitoring, in some ways, a 5-year planning horizon, at least financially. Like that's what we're always rolling for every year. And so just quick timelines rolling forward. So think April, we'll have a public document. By July, we're going to have a really heavy technical one for our staff and for those of you from the board that would like to read it. We'll have an access database where all of our data measures are going to have a relationship from the data field. So all of our actions are going to be connected to our action measures. Our action measures are going to be connected to the applicable outcomes. And so we really could show you a map and pull, just like the questions we're getting, show us your anti-racism actions. We'll be able to query those from our access database and show all the results that we're doing. Of course, there's going to be holes, like we are not going to build the perfect logical framework, but we will have the system to be able to show where the holes are and like what we're achieving, what we're not able to measure. So we'll have that by like later this summer. And that will inform us all to go into the next round of our budget process. So like, where do we want to invest more? We want to turn the dial up more. Where do we want to measure more? All that kind of conversation. So we'll be ready to go for this next budget. The charter reform stuff is really going to come to head probably this fall. And so I think this is really going to be helpful for us because we can both describe what we're doing, how we're measuring it. I mean, we won't have longitudinal like progress on everything, but we'll have like the best we can have. And most bureaus aren't in that place. And so as you talk about like then the management structure of like, hey, do you want to move big hunks of services over to parks, or just do people want to look at parks and park services and move it to some other management unit? We can actually have like an informed discussion versus just like moving deck chairs on top of a ship and like people thinking, hey, let's just move people over here, but they don't really know the services that are being provided, what they cost, what performance is going around it. So I feel like we're going to go into a strong position at parks for the next year or two. And the timeline for charter reform really is first this fall, and then they're really going to be looking to build a budget for the following fiscal year. So July 1st, 2024, this will be the last budget this council will put its fingerprints on before we'll have 13 new electeds in the city of Portland. So there's this kind of moment for the next, 18 months of where there's going to be a lot of discussions about, how do they get the last launching pad set for the next council. So that's kind of, there's a lot going on right now.
It's gonna be a fun year. Yeah.
You're in a good place.
Sorry you
If
asked.
you want to be part of rebuilding the city, you're in the right place.
So yeah, we're really, I mean, I think it's taken a lot longer than any of us really anticipated, but I think our approach was right. I think the structure is going to be resilient, right? Because whether we modify our service areas, add to whatever,
Right.
we've got this great sort of foundational framework about how to think about what we do, why we do it, how to measure it, et cetera. So it's really, it's a great place to be, and really excited about it.
Thank you both. It's a lot of work.
Well, thanks to a lot.
There's a lot.
There are a lot of people.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks to Nicola for being the cat herder here.
Yeah.
So if there aren't any additional questions, I just wanted to pass it back to Aaron for maybe some final comments or next steps.
Yeah, thanks, Director Long. I think, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what we want to do is make a motion to endorse the mission, vision, values, and also the equity and anti-racism commitment. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
So that is what we're looking to do.
Are you
And
making
I
a
would like
motion,
to make
Erin?
that motion. Yes, thank you. I would like to make a motion that the Parks Board endorses the mission, vision, values, and the equity and anti-racism commitment.
Any second? Was that Chris?
Yep.
Thank you, Chris. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Casey.
I guess what I would say, kind of following on what Corbin's been saying and people have been agreeing to, I see the motion as agreeing to endorsing them only jointly and not individually.
That
So
was
they
my
have- they-
motion.
They come forward together.
Yeah.
Corbin's got it.
Corbin,
Yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted to also ask that, can we make a recommendation to endorse with some additions to be thought through? Like how would this work? Through the inclusion of some of the comments?
you can make a friendly amendment for specific comments to be included in the endorsement.
I guess my only issue is that if we do endorse it, does that mean that what we talked about won't be incorporated? Or are we endorsing it as is two separate documents that may be used in tandem?
So,
I just want clarification on it.
yeah, they're two different, well, they're two different documents, but they're multiple statements, right? There's a mission statement, there's a vision statement, there's a value statement, and there's the anti-racism and equity statement, right? It just so happens that the mission, vision, values is all on one page. And the other, and the racial, the anti-racism and equity statement or commitment is on a second page. And that's, you know, one because of space, but also you'll notice on the outcomes, we do have an anti-racism and equity outcome statement, right? So I think, and we know that they will be used in tandem, but for now, they're being presented as two separate documents. The visualization may change what it looks like, and we're not there yet. So I would like to say that you're endorsing the content of the statements, not the visual presentation of the statements, because we know that that potentially is going to shift. We're not looking to wordsmith at this moment in time, although the feedback has been documented, and we will bring it back to the consultants and the design team regardless. I hope
Yeah,
that's
maybe
helpful.
that's a good clarification for the motion, because we know there may be a few minor updates, word changes as it goes through its very final process. And so maybe I can update my motion. I still would like to move to endorse them together, understanding we're endorsing this, knowing that there might be some small changes, that our feedback will be not necessarily incorporated, but will be reviewed along with the very final other feedback that might be received through the commissioner's office. And that's a really long motion. So that's my motion though, I guess. Hopefully that was not a tangent. Not a tangent.
Looks like Sabrina has her hand up. I don't know if it's on this topic or something else or related.
Yeah, it's just a question, taking into consideration there may be additional revisions. Can we get updated on what those are? You know, even if we're at this stage saying, okay, we like what it looks like as a whole right now, can we plan to get updated on if there are changes? I mean.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
You're gonna hear about this until forever.
I think we will receive that anyway, even if we didn't endorse it. Corbin.
So I guess my question would be, can we say that we are going to move to endorse these two documents with feedback incorporated, with the understanding that we will get a final view of the document in the future?
I wouldn't say feedback incorporated because we don't know if we're gonna incorporate the feedback, but I think feedback considered.
Is that the wording that you want to use? That's fine with feed. I want to make sure that it's not only the documents, but our feedback is also being documented as going with these documents in our
Yes,
endorsement.
ma'am. That would be fine.
Great, thank you.
So Erin, you want to take another
All
stab
right,
at
let me
it?
try to do this a little bit better this time. I woke up at 3:30, you guys. That's too much information, but okay. So I would like to make a motion that the Parks Board endorses these two documents, the mission, vision, values, and the equity and anti-racism statement, understanding that our feedback will be considered and that there might be minor changes as it goes through its final process. Can I get a second?
Yay, Erin, I'll second you. Nicely done.
And Erin, you have withdrawn your 2 prior motions, correct?
Otherwise, they're still out there.
Do I need to put every single version of the?
No, I don't know. It's up to you.
Only what's decided upon.
Any further discussion before we call the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Looks like the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, it is 6:19 and other than public comment, I see 2 folks who've logged in. Nope, they're gone.
Yeah, they were here for a while.
That was weird.
They're gone. The 2 people who were neither Parks Board or staffs. Oh, well, vacated. So presumably they are not here for public comment since they're no longer here. But with that, we've actually made it through our entire agenda, guys. We're ahead of schedule. This is our first way ahead of schedule meeting we've had in a couple of years.
And so all of you have time to spend time with your loverlies on Valentine's Day.
Unless there's some emergency thing that you want to bring to us immediately. With that, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Oh, Adam.
I have one quick, just procedural clarification question. Sorry to take everybody's. Just want to make sure that when we communicate times for public comment, should there be somebody that is available at 6:45 in case someone logs in?
Technically, yes, that's probably a good idea.
I'll stay on.
Yeah, I can stay too.
Well, technically, we need a quorum to make it.
Oh, right.
Oh, I'm so sorry, everybody.
We need 8 of us to stick around until 6:45. I will stay.
Any singers in the group?
Staff can certainly go. I mean, there's no.
Well, it depends on if somebody does come for public
That's true.
comment.
We can carry it forward.
No one's coming, are they?
Right, like nobody signed up for it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Nobody signed up.
I'm not saying one
I
way or the other, I'm just asking.
I don't know. Casey, I'm gonna defer to you because, I mean,
You control the agenda through the meeting agenda is controlled by you.
I know, but we did put this out there and it does say public comment at 6:45.
We've never had it.
And we've
Right.
never had anybody come at 6:45.
We've only had people come at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay. Any potential?
Is
public
everybody okay with
commenters?
that?
I'm gonna say that it is so unlikely that we're not gonna have 8 board members and staff stick around.
Dr. Corbin?
Corbin has a comment. I'm sure it's gonna be brilliant.
I would say that, we can shut it down. We leave and then we'll see what the fallout is and then we will adjust accordingly.
Yes, we'll adjust the public comment procedure if we need to, since we have the co-chairs of the community engagement working group represented today. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn.
Bye,
Thank you
everyone.
all.
everyone.
Happy
Happy
Valentine's
Valentine's
Day.
Day.
We probably could add that people need to
Sign
sign up.
Sign
I
in
mean,
by
and we did
6:15
Yeah,
or whatever.
right, show
we
like,
did say, I mean, because we used to have it, you had to submit, was it a month in advance or was it a week in advance? I don't know.
Yeah.
It was more than a week in advance.
It was like a month,
but just like, which was ridiculous.
right?
I mean, anyone can show up. It's a public meeting and they can show up, whether they have something to say or not.